Welcome in to another post-game show on House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic, the producer. And I think the best way to describe this game for the Rams is that they simply just got dominated by a better Eagles squad as they lose 23-14 at SoFi Stadium today. I think we kind of saw what we expected from the Rams in this game in terms offensively. I, I never seen Sean McVay as frustrated as he was in his post game presser, and rightfully so. I think there was a lot of plays that were left, that weren't executed well offensively. I think defensively they played as good as you can play against a really good offensive team in the Eagles. I'll start off with the offense just in terms of just some of the bad play that you start off scoring with on the first drive, and everything looked good on that first drive. They got a they went for it and they scored on that first drive, and then they squared things up with the Eagles after they scored on their opening drive as well. So 7-7, things look good for the Rams, but then I think even as you ended the half, you felt good because you took the lead, you were up. And then just again, like in the towards the end of the half, like kind of like what we saw against the 49ers, you led a 4 play, 75-yard drive. You let them score on that. You could have gone into halftime feeling great about yourself, and yet, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Then you come back in the second half, and again, for a second week in a row in the second half, the Rams look really bad offensively. And I know I keep going back to the defense, but the defense played well. I don't, they kept the Eagles offense. I think they forced them into three field goals when they were in the red zone. Overall, they were two out of six, and so you just expect much better things from this offense. And I understand trying to incorporate um, Cooper Kupp back in it. They did that. I mean, he finished the day with 8 receptions for 118 yards, which is great, but it's just some of the frustrations. I know that a lot of you fans are gonna be frustrated with the play today and the chances, because now there's expectations on this team. I think if you would have lost this, coming in before the season, if you told people, hey, you're gonna lose to the Philadelphia Eagles at home 23-14, you would have said, wow, they didn't get blown out. But I think expectations has now changed for this team, and I think that's part of the reason you saw the frustration come out from Sean McVay in his presser, and I think it's a good thing to see this from him because he wants to coach up this team. And I think this is his biggest challenge as Rams coach, is trying to coach up this young team. And I think that's part of having a young team. You're going to get a lot of ups and downs. You're going to see a lot of struggles from some of your young players, but you still have to love the fight that you're seeing from this team. And I understand the frustration, and I think that Kobe Durant missing that tackle on Gainwell was a huge play as well. I mean, you allow that to score, and it's tough. It's tough, especially when you have an opportunity to beat a good team. Especially at home. You played really good. You stayed in the game against the 49ers. And then you do it again against the Eagles, but in the end, the Eagles just are way more are way have a lot more depth than you do, and I think it showed today. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities in this game, but let me go ahead and give you guys just some quick stats. I have some comments here from Daniel Berry Sports Highlight. He says my Rams suck. They don't suck, man. Like I'll say this: they stayed in the game. It was just the talent isn't as good as the other teams are facing right now, especially early in the season. You're playing some really tough teams and teams that were expected to do well. Like the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Bengals, and now the Eagles. I mean, to be 2-3 right now, you should feel good. I understand, and like I've said, just having to lose games like the one today, it's hard because you're starting to have expectations. You get Cooper Cup back, it's a good thing, but you gotta work them back into the offense. I thought one of the big things today was there was no running game at all. I mean, the time of possession also was really bad in this game for the Rams. You cannot do that and expect to win a game. I mean, the Eagles had a time of possession of 37, almost 38 minutes, and to the Rams 22 minutes. That's You're not gonna win games like that when you get beat in the time of possession that drastically. And then in the rushing game, the Eagles, had 159 yards rushing, and the Rams only had 54. You only get uh 13 carries for 53 yards from Kyron Williams and only one carry from Ronnie Rivers. That's not going to get it done. Stafford looked really good in this game in terms of he even got some good protection, but unfortunately, you just don't the talent didn't match up with what the Eagles offered. I thought, and getting back to the defense, I thought outside of letting that the Eagles drive the field on the 4 plays for 75 yards, they did really well. Kilo Witherspoon again, man, with another interception. That guy's been a great find in free agency. I know a lot of people are not happy with Deion Kendrick and the some of the penalties that he got, but he was playing aggressive and that's what you want from a player. That's how they've been all season. You can't take that away from him now. But outside of that, I think that's part of the problem with this team right now is that you that was one of my biggest concerns going into the season as well, was having to put pressure on quarterbacks. And I thought when it's Aaron Donald and you don't have a lot of pieces around him to be able to rush the passer, it's going to be hard when a team has a really good offensive line. And I think that's what they ran into today. Is that there was no pressure and it's hard. And I understand, a lot of people were like, "Well, why did you get rid of some of your pass rushers?" And they've done a good job. I thought Byron Young has done really well this season, but and my putting Michael Hoyt on, to cover Dallas Goddard, that wasn't that wasn't good either. You can't have those kind of plays against a good team like this. You're gonna get exposed when it comes to those kind of plays. And give credit to the Eagles. They took advantage. They ran the ball. They did what they wanted. I thought the Rams stayed in the game, but at, at the end of the day, it's hard to stay when you can't compete with talent when the on the other side they have better talent. And Sean McVay didn't have one of his best coaching jobs today too. I felt like he got out coached today by Nick Sirianni, and like Nick Sirianni has better talent on his side and he took advantage of it. And that's gonna happen. You give credit to Nick Sirianni for calling, a better game, and doing a better job. And then Hey Alonso, thanks for your comment. We're doing good here. It's a tough loss today for the Rams, as they lose 23-14. But I think you still have to take some positives from this game. You can go and be I understand being 2-3 is it's not ideal, but I think you got the Cardinals coming up, and you have to feel good about the fact that you got Cooper Cup back. Having Cooper Cup back allows you to do a lot more things. Now you can incorporate him. I thought there was some instances where you could tell that the chemistry was a little bit off between Matthew Stafford and Cooper Cup. He missed them on a couple of throws. There was even that one what was it? grounding call that they call where he ran the wrong route, and then Matthew Stafford threw it out of bounds, and he got called for grounding there. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna take time, especially incorporating now that you have Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp. I think things are gonna get better as, and then kind of like what we kind of talked about for our preview. I think the other thing is Van Jefferson. You didn't see him out there. I thought they needed to get Tutu Atwell a little bit more incorporated. I was kind of surprised they didn't run any jet sweeps in this game, to kind of to offset the Eagles pass rush. But and I understand, like, once you fall behind, you got to throw the ball. But I just felt like you needed to run the ball a little bit more. But I don't think like I said, I've said before, I understand the frustration from Ram fans today because you were in this game. You even with not having as much talent as the Eagles, you're still there. You're improving weekly. You're 2-3, and you have the Cardinals coming up, and I think you just have to, you know, play it week by week, and hopefully things get better. And I think they will. As you can see, seen Sean McVay this frustrated, this pissed off after this game tells you that, hey, there's a lot of things that they need to work on, and they'll get it together because that's what happens when you have a young team. But overall, I still like what they're doing. You know I just think that this team is on the rise, especially with when you have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua. You have talent on this team. It's going to be a process trying to bring in these young players, but I think you have to feel good about some of the players that some of the players that you're getting good results from, like Ernest Jones with 15 tackles. He was all over the field. I just thought that the pressure wasn't there, and rightfully so. You're not going to get a lot of pressure on a well coached team, especially on the offensive line. They did a great job of, and then Jalen Hurts, man, like that guy is just incredible. He was able to get out of the pocket. There was some plays where not having a really good edge rusher here hurt them. I thought there was one time where Byron Young did set the edge and did a great job on it, but Michael Hoyd, there was a couple of them where he rushed up instead of setting the edge, and that cost him a first down. And it's these are learning things that you need to go through when you have a young team, and I think they'll get it together. But there's no shame in losing to a team like this. The Philadelphia Eagles are 5-0 for a reason. They're expected to compete for a Super Bowl this season. And like I said, the three losses you've had have been against a 49ers team who's expected to go to the Super Bowl, a Cincinnati team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago and was in the AFC Championship game last year, and then you have the Eagles team who was in the Super Bowl last season. So like I said, it's frustrating to lose some of these games, especially at home. You still haven't won a home game so far this season. You're 2-0. You're 2-1 on the road. The win at home will come, but like I said, it's. I understand the frustration that everybody's feeling, but at the end of the day, you just have to say, hey, the Eagles were the better team today, and then you just move on to next week. Get ready for a underrated Arizona team, a team that everybody expected was gonna tank this season. They've played every team so far really tough, so that's going to be a challenge as well. You can't overlook the Cardinals anymore. But in terms of this, going back to this game, it's just execution will come for this team. I think you just got to continue to improve and work during practice and getting players healthy. I thought the offensive line played pretty well. Outside of a couple of plays, one of the plays that really bugged me at the end of the game was I don't know why they move Ronnie Rivers next to the McClendon when he came in for Havenstein. Like that allowed the pass rusher to move over even more and be able to have a clear rush towards Matthew Stafford, which I thought was a mistake. They should have, if you were going to chip the edge rusher there, then you let Ronnie Rivers stay right next to Matthew Stafford. But and I even heard in the post game show. McVay wasn't happy with Ronnie Rivers on that, and that's been my biggest. That's been another thing that I've been a little focused on was how they were gonna these two young running backs were gonna do with blitzes and blitz pickups and free rushers. And on that one, he didn't do his job. And I understand, why Havenstein had to come out of the game because they thought he had a concussion, which also sucks. I know there's a lot of frustration with some of these concussion rules and having to take guys out if they're injured or not, but it happens. But outside of that, like I thought the offensive line played pretty well. Those last two sacks weren't on the offensive line. They just had more pressure. They had more guys that you sometimes you can't block everybody, and unfortunately that's what happened. But the game was over by then, so I can be more critical there, but it was the end of the game. By then they were pretty much done. But I thought the big takeaway I think was the second half. This offense hasn't been really good in the second halves, and I think Sean McVay needs to do a better job of coaching up this team in the second half. And he even admitted that he needs to do a better job. But that's all I have for you guys today. I know, I'll be back tomorrow with Gilbert. He'll join me tomorrow, and we'll break this game down a little bit more. But make sure you send in your questions. We'll get them in. We'll talk about this game. And yeah, send us your questions. Let us know what you think. If you agree or disagree with me on some of the things I had to say today on this loss. But I think you know um you just have to take this as a lesson. This wasn't a moral loss. It was more of, hey, you learn from this and you move forward. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you for joining me today. If you check out this podcast later on, please, like I said, give us a comment. Gilbert and I will be back. We'll talk about this game. We'll wrap up, and then we'll look ahead a little bit to the matchup against the Cardinals. But that's it for me. I hope everybody has a good weekend, rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening.